The fall of France in 1940 was not merely a military defeat, it was a profound psychological blow that reverberated through the hearts of its citizens. The swift advance of German forces, culminating in the occupation of Paris on June 14, left a nation grappling with the stark reality of subjugation. Streets once filled with laughter and life now echoed with the heavy boots of soldiers and the ominous presence of the Gestapo. In this atmosphere of despair, the notion of resistance seemed almost absurd, a flicker of hope in a world engulfed by darkness. Yet, amidst the chaos, a small but determined group began to rise from the ashes of defeat. Among them was Adolphe Tézan, a skilled artisan whose craftsmanship extended beyond mere artistry, it was a tool for survival. By the time the German military tightened its grip on France, Tézan recognized that the power of identity could be manipulated. In a society where the wrong papers could lead to arrest and deportation, the ability to forge a new identity became a lifeline for many. The early days of the occupation were marked by a pervasive sense of fear. Daily life was punctuated by curfews, rationing, and the constant threat of arrest. The German authorities implemented strict measures to control the populace, including the establishment of checkpoints and the enforcement of identity verification. For many, the idea of resisting this oppressive regime was not only dangerous but also seemed futile. The consequences of defiance were severe, and the specter of betrayal loomed large. However, Tézan and his associates began to challenge this narrative. They understood that the act of forging documents was not merely a criminal endeavor, it was an act of defiance against an occupying force that sought to erase their identity and autonomy. The initial attempts at forgery were rudimentary, conducted in secret workshops where the sound of paper being cut and ink being pressed became a quiet rebellion against the regime. Each document produced was a testament to their resolve, a small act of courage in a time of overwhelming despair. By the time the forgers honed their skills, they began to realize the potential impact of their work. The demand for false identification documents surged as reports of deportations and arrests spread through the community. Families were torn apart, and the fear of being captured became a daily reality. The forgers recognized that their craft could provide a means of escape for those most vulnerable under the occupation. What had once been dismissed as a fool's errand was now seen as a vital necessity for survival. By the year of 1941, the seeds of resistance had taken root. The forgers, once viewed with derision, began to gain recognition for their bravery and ingenuity. Their work, though still in its infancy, offered a glimmer of hope in a time of darkness. As the new year approached, the resistance prepared for the birth of a clandestine network that would play a crucial role in the fight against oppression. The streets of Paris, once silent with fear, began to whisper of resistance, and the forgers stood at the forefront of this burgeoning movement. The German occupation of France was characterized by a systematic dismantling of civil liberties and an aggressive campaign to suppress dissent. The Vichy government, established in the southern part of France, collaborated with the Nazis, further complicating the landscape for those who sought to resist. The collaborationist policies of Vichy not only facilitated the deportation of Jews and political dissidents, but also created an environment of mistrust and fear among the populace. Daily life became a balancing act between survival and resistance, with many individuals grappling with the moral implications of their choices. In this context, the forgers emerged as unlikely heroes. Adolphe Tézan, along with his associates, began to establish a network that would provide false identification documents to those in need. The logistics of their operation were complex, requiring careful planning and coordination. The forgers had to navigate the dangers of discovery while ensuring that their work reached those who needed it most. This involved establishing safe houses, creating secure communication channels, and building a network of trusted individuals willing to risk their lives for the cause. The geography of occupied France played a significant role in the resistance efforts. Urban centers like Paris became hubs of activity, where the forgers could operate under the cover of anonymity. The city's labyrinthine streets and hidden corners provided ample opportunities for clandestine meetings and the distribution of forged documents. However, the rural areas also posed unique challenges and opportunities. The countryside became a refuge for those fleeing the Nazis, and the forgers had to adapt their strategies to meet the needs of individuals seeking safety. Daily life under occupation was marked by a constant struggle for resources. Rationing of food, fuel, and other essentials became the norm, leading to widespread discontent among the populace. The black market flourished, and many turned to illegal means to obtain what they needed. In this environment, the forgers found allies among those who were disillusioned with the regime. Artisans, former government employees, and ordinary citizens began to join the cause, recognizing that the fight against oppression required collective action. The forgers faced numerous challenges as they sought to expand their operations. The Gestapo, with its network of informants and collaborators, was relentless in its pursuit of resistance activities. Raids on suspected safe houses and workshops became increasingly common, creating an atmosphere of paranoia and fear. The forgers had to remain vigilant, constantly changing locations and employing elaborate security measures to evade detection. Each document produced was a potential death sentence if discovered, yet the knowledge that their work was vital to the survival of the resistance spurred them on. As the occupation wore on, the harsh realities of life under Nazi rule began to shift perceptions. The initial skepticism surrounding the forgers' work gave way to a growing recognition of its importance. The demand for false papers surged as more individuals faced the threat of deportation or arrest. The forgers, once operating in isolation, began to form a cohesive network that spanned the length and breadth of occupied France. Their work became a lifeline for countless individuals, offering them a chance to evade capture and continue their fight against the occupiers. By the year of 1942, the clandestine network established by Tézan and his associates had become a formidable force in the fight against Nazi oppression. The forgers, once figures of derision, were now celebrated for their courage and ingenuity. Their work, though fraught with danger, provided a beacon of hope to those living under the shadow of tyranny. By the end of that year, the groundwork was laid for a more organized and effective resistance effort, setting the stage for the challenges and triumphs that lay ahead. As the year 1943 unfolded, the clandestine operations of Adolphe Tézan and his network of forgers faced an increasingly perilous landscape. The German occupation had reached a critical juncture, and the Gestapo, emboldened by their earlier successes, intensified their efforts to dismantle the burgeoning resistance movement. For the forgers, the stakes had never been higher. Each day brought new challenges, as the threat of discovery loomed larger than ever. The Gestapo's crackdown on resistance activities was relentless. They employed a combination of brutal tactics, including raids, surveillance, and the use of informants, to root out those involved in the production of false documents. The forgers, no longer operating with a degree of anonymity, had found themselves in a game of cat and mouse, where the risks of their work were magnified. The fear of arrest was palpable, and the consequences of capture were dire. Torture, imprisonment, and execution awaited those who fell into the hands of the occupiers. Despite the dangers, Tézan and his team remained resolute. They understood that their work was not merely a matter of personal survival, it was a lifeline for countless individuals who depended on their forged papers to evade capture. The demand for false documents surged as the realities of the occupation became increasingly grim. Jewish families faced imminent deportation, while resistance fighters sought to evade the clutches of the Gestapo. The forgers' ability to provide these crucial documents became a beacon of hope in a darkening world. In this climate of fear, the forgers displayed remarkable ingenuity and adaptability. They employed a variety of tactics to evade detection, including frequent relocations and the establishment of multiple safe houses. The print shop in Paris, once a static operation, transformed into a mobile unit, capable of being dismantled and relocated at a moment's notice. This adaptability was essential in staying one step ahead of the Gestapo, who were increasingly frustrated by their inability to capture the forgers. The forgers also developed a network of trusted couriers, individuals who risked their lives to transport forged documents to those in need. These couriers, often ordinary citizens, became vital links in the resistance chain, ensuring that the lifelines crafted by Tézan and his team reached their intended recipients. The courage of these individuals cannot be overstated. They operated under the constant threat of arrest, yet their commitment to the cause remained unwavering. However, the risks associated with their work were not without consequences. In 1943, a series of arrests targeted key members of the forgery network, resulting in devastating losses. Friends and colleagues were captured, and some paid the ultimate price for their involvement in the resistance. These arrests served as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in their work, yet they also reinforced the resolve of those who remained. The stories of those who were lost became rallying cries for the forgers, motivating them to continue their efforts in the face of overwhelming odds. One particularly harrowing incident involved the arrest of a close associate of Tézan, a skilled engraver named Pierre Moreau. Moreau had been instrumental in perfecting the techniques used to create high-quality forgeries. His capture sent shockwaves through the network, as the Gestapo sought to extract information about the forgers' operations. Despite the brutal interrogations he endured, Moreau remained silent, refusing to betray his comrades. Tragically, he was executed, becoming a martyr for the cause and a symbol of the sacrifices made by those who fought against oppression. The effect of the forgers' work during this period was profound. Their ability to produce documents that were nearly indistinguishable from the originals allowed countless individuals to evade capture. Jewish families, once facing certain deportation, found refuge in the countryside, assuming new identities that shielded them from the ever-watchful eyes of the Nazi regime. Allied airmen shot down over France relied on these forged papers to navigate occupied territories and return to safety. The Maquis, France's rural guerrilla bands, depended on these documents to operate more freely, organize sabotage operations, and disrupt German supply lines. The Gestapo's frustration with the forgers' activities was palpable. Their inability to distinguish between authentic and counterfeit documents was a testament to the skill and dedication of Tézan and his team. The forgers had not only provided a means of escape but had also sown seeds of doubt and confusion within the ranks of the occupiers. Reports from Gestapo officials indicated a growing concern over the effectiveness of the forgers, who had become a thorn in their side. As the year progressed, the forgers faced increasing scrutiny. The Gestapo's efforts to infiltrate resistance networks intensified, leading to a series of betrayals that threatened to unravel the carefully constructed web of support. The forgers were forced to operate with even greater caution, relying on a small circle of trusted individuals to maintain their operations. The atmosphere of paranoia and mistrust weighed heavily on the network, as the fear of betrayal loomed large. In response to these challenges, Tézan and his team implemented stricter security measures. They developed codes and signals to communicate discreetly, ensuring that their plans remained hidden from prying eyes. Meetings were held in secret locations, and the production of forged documents was conducted under the cover of darkness. The forgers understood that their survival depended on their ability to remain one step ahead of the Gestapo. Despite the mounting pressure, the forgers continued to produce documents that were vital to the resistance effort. Each forged document represented a lifeline, a chance at freedom in a world where such opportunities were increasingly rare. The stories of those they saved became a source of inspiration, fueling their determination to persevere in the face of adversity. As 1943 drew to a close, the forgers remained steadfast in their commitment to the resistance. Their work, though fraught with danger, continued to provide hope and a path to freedom for those living under occupation. The risks were great, but the rewards measured in lives saved and futures secured were significant. The confrontation between the forgers and the Gestapo was far from over, but the resilience of the human spirit shone brightly in the darkest of times. As the year 1944 unfolded, the clandestine operations of Adolphe Tézan and his network of forgers reached a crescendo of influence and necessity. The tide of war was beginning to turn, with the Allies making significant advances in Europe. Yet, within occupied France, the grip of the Gestapo remained tight, their vigilance unyielding. In this climate of fear and oppression, the forged documents produced by Tézan's team became lifelines for thousands. The forger's work had evolved into an art form, with each document meticulously crafted to withstand scrutiny. These counterfeit papers were not mere replicas, they were masterpieces of deception, incorporating the latest security features of the time. The forgers had mastered the nuances of official stamps, watermarks, and signatures, creating documents that could pass the most rigorous inspections. This attention to detail was essential for survival. The impact of these forgeries was profound. For Jewish families, these documents offered a chance to escape the horrors of deportation. Many found refuge in the countryside, assuming new identities that shielded them from the ever-watchful eyes of the Nazi regime. For Allied airmen shot down over France, these papers were a ticket to safety, enabling them to traverse occupied territories and return to the fight. The Maquis, France's rural guerrilla bands, relied on these documents to move freely, organize sabotage operations, and evade capture. The Gestapo, aware of the forgery's existence, found themselves in a constant game of cat and mouse. Their records from this period reveal a growing frustration, as they struggled to differentiate between authentic and counterfeit documents. This inability to stem the tide of forgeries was a significant blow to their efforts to maintain control over the population. The forgers had not only provided a means of escape but had also sown seeds of doubt and confusion within the ranks of the occupiers. The effectiveness of the forgers was underscored by the stories of those they saved. One such tale is that of the Levy family, who, armed with new identities, fled Paris just days before a scheduled roundup. Their journey to safety, fraught with peril, was made possible by the documents crafted in Tézan's hidden workshop. Similarly, the story of RAF pilot John Williams, who, after being shot down, navigated his way through occupied France with the help of a forged identity card, became emblematic of the forger's crucial role in the resistance. As the Allies prepared for the D-Day invasion, the need for such documents only increased. The forgers worked tirelessly, often under the cover of night, to meet the growing demand. Their efforts were not without risk. Each document produced was a potential death sentence if discovered. Yet, the knowledge that their work was instrumental in the broader fight against tyranny spurred them on. By the time Allied forces landed on the beaches of Normandy on June 6, 1944, the groundwork laid by the forgers had already begun to bear fruit. Resistance fighters, emboldened by the promise of liberation, intensified their efforts, disrupting German supply lines and communications. The forged documents allowed them to operate with a level of freedom that would have been impossible otherwise. The revelation of the forger's impact was not just a matter of numbers or strategic advantage, it was a testament to the power of human ingenuity and courage. In a world where the machinery of war often overshadowed individual acts of bravery, the forgers stood as a reminder of the difference that a few determined individuals could make. Their work had become a cornerstone of the resistance, a silent yet potent force that helped to undermine the Nazi regime from within. As the summer of 1944 progressed, the forgers found themselves at the center of a growing movement. The network they had built was not only about producing documents, it had become a symbol of hope and defiance. The stories of those who had benefited from their work spread throughout occupied France, inspiring others to join the resistance. The forgers, no longer operating in the shadows, had found themselves in the spotlight, their contributions recognized and celebrated by those they had saved. The effect of the forgers extended beyond individual lives. It resonated throughout the entire resistance movement. Their ability to provide false identities allowed resistance fighters to coordinate operations, gather intelligence, and disrupt German activities with greater efficacy. The forgers had become integral to the fabric of the resistance, their work enabling a level of organization and effectiveness that was crucial in the face of overwhelming odds. As the Allies advanced, the forgers faced new challenges. The German authorities, desperate to maintain control, intensified their efforts to root out resistance activities. Raids became more frequent, and the risk of arrest loomed larger than ever. Yet, the forgers remained undeterred. They understood that their work was not just about survival. It was about standing up against tyranny and fighting for a future free from oppression. The stories of bravery and resilience continued to emerge from the shadows. One such story involved a young woman named Claire Dubois, who had been living under a false identity for months. Armed with a forged document, she was able to help several Jewish families escape to safety. Her courage and determination inspired others to take action, further expanding the network of resistance. The forgers had ignited a spark of hope that spread throughout occupied France. By the end of that year, the forgers remained steadfast in their commitment to the resistance. Their work, though fraught with danger, continued to provide hope and a path to freedom for those living under occupation. The risks were great, but the rewards measured in lives saved and futures secured were significant. The confrontation between the forgers and the Gestapo was far from over, but the resilience of the human spirit shone brightly in the darkest of times. As the summer of 1944 gave way to autumn, the liberation of Paris on August 25 marked a turning point in the war. The jubilant scenes of Parisians celebrating in the streets belied the harsh realities faced by those who had fought in the shadows. For the forgers, the eve of occupation brought both relief and new dangers. The Gestapo, in their final acts of desperation, intensified their efforts to root out resistance members, and collaborators sought vengeance against those who had defied them. The cost of courage became painfully evident as many within the forgery networks faced reprisals. Some, like Adolphe Tézan, managed to evade capture, their identities and locations shielded by the very documents they had created. Others were not so fortunate. Arrests were swift and brutal, with captured forgers subjected to torture in an attempt to extract information about their operations and associates. The Gestapo, aware of the impending collapse of their regime, sought to dismantle the resistance infrastructure before their time ran out. The stories of those who suffered during this period are harrowing. Jean Dupont, a key figure in the forgery network, was captured in September 1944. Despite enduring severe interrogation, he refused to betray his comrades, ultimately paying the ultimate price for his silence. His sacrifice, like that of many others, underscored the perilous nature of resistance work and the unwavering commitment of those involved. For some, the end of the war brought a different kind of struggle. The transition from clandestine operations to peacetime life was fraught with challenges. The skills that had been honed in secrecy were not easily transferred to civilian life, and the psychological toll of years spent under constant threat weighed heavily on many. The trauma of loss and the haunting memories of comrades who had not survived left deep scars. Yet, amidst the personal tragedies, the broader impact of the forgers' work was undeniable. They had saved thousands of lives, providing a beacon of hope in a time of darkness. Their actions had not only facilitated the survival of individuals but had also contributed to the broader resistance effort, weakening the Nazi hold on France and aiding the Allied advance. As France began the process of rebuilding, the contributions of the forgers were increasingly recognized. Their bravery and ingenuity were celebrated, their sacrifices honored. Monuments and memorials were erected, and their stories were shared, ensuring that their legacy would endure. The cost of courage, while steep, had not been in vain. The forgers had played a pivotal role in the liberation of their country, their actions a testament to the power of resistance in the face of overwhelming odds. Their story, once shrouded in secrecy, had become a symbol of resilience and defiance, a reminder of the indomitable spirit of those who dared to stand against tyranny. The moral dilemmas faced by the forgers were profound. Each document they produced carried with it the weight of responsibility. They were not merely creating false identities, they were altering the fates of individuals and families. The decision to forge a document was often accompanied by sleepless nights and agonizing deliberations. Would this identity save a life? Would it lead to betrayal? The stakes were immeasurable, and the consequences of failure were dire. In the midst of this turmoil, the forgers grappled with their own identities. They were artisans, but they were also subversives. They had families, friends, and lives that were at risk. The act of forging documents was not just a means of survival, it was a declaration of defiance against the oppressive regime. Yet, with each act of resistance came the haunting question, at what cost? The Gestapo's frustration with the forgers' activities was palpable. Their inability to distinguish between authentic and counterfeit documents was a testament to the skill and dedication of Tézan and his team. This period of confrontation underscored the critical role that the forgers played in undermining the Nazi regime, highlighting their bravery and resourcefulness in the face of overwhelming odds. As 1944 progressed, the forgers found themselves at the center of a moral and ethical storm. The liberation of Paris brought with it a sense of urgency, as the Allies pushed deeper into France. The forgers were inundated with requests for documents, and the pressure to produce increased exponentially. Each day brought new challenges, new faces, and new stories of desperation. The stories of those they helped became intertwined with their own. The forgers learned of families torn apart, of children separated from parents, and of individuals who had lost everything. Each forged document represented not just a piece of paper, but a lifeline, a chance for a new beginning. The weight of this knowledge fueled their resolve, even as the risks mounted. In the final months of the war, the forgers faced a dual challenge: the external threat of the Gestapo and the internal struggle of maintaining their humanity in a world that had become increasingly brutal. The act of forging documents was, in many ways, an act of compassion. It was a refusal to accept the dehumanization that the Nazi regime sought to impose. Yet, with each act of compassion came the risk of exposure and the potential for devastating consequences. As the Allies advanced, the forgers understood that their work was not just about survival, it was about reclaiming dignity in a world that had sought to strip it away. They were not merely forgers, they were guardians of hope, standing against the tide of oppression. Their actions became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there were those who would rise to defend the values of humanity. The liberation of Paris was a moment of triumph, but it was also a moment of reckoning. The forgers emerged from the shadows, their contributions recognized, but the scars of war remained. The moral complexities of their actions lingered, and the memories of those who had suffered haunted them. The transition from resistance to rebuilding was fraught with challenges, but the enduring legacy of the forgers endured, a testament to the power of courage and compassion in the face of tyranny. In the aftermath of liberation, the narrative surrounding the French resistance began to evolve. The bravery and ingenuity of the forgers transformed public perception, marking a significant shift in how the French viewed their own history during the war. The immediate post-war years were a time of reflection and reckoning. As the nation grappled with the realities of collaboration and resistance, the stories of those who had risked everything to defy the occupiers came to the forefront. The clandestine efforts of the forgers, once hidden in the shadows, were now celebrated as acts of heroism. Adolphe Tézan and his colleagues, who had operated in secrecy, emerged as symbols of resilience and ingenuity. This shift in perception was not merely a matter of public recognition, it was a profound re-evaluation of the role that ordinary individuals had played in the resistance. The forgers, with their quiet determination and unwavering commitment, exemplified the power of individual action in the face of tyranny. Their story resonated with a nation seeking to rebuild its identity and honor those who had fought for its freedom. The transformation in how the forgers were perceived was reflected in the cultural and historical narratives of the time. Books, films, and documentaries began to explore their contributions, shedding light on the complexities and challenges of their work. Museums dedicated to the resistance included exhibits on the forges, highlighting the intricate processes and daring operations that had enabled them to produce the lifelines that saved so many. This newfound recognition was not without its complexities. The forgers, like many resistance members, faced the challenge of reintegrating into a society that was still healing from the wounds of war. The transition from clandestine operations to civilian life was not always smooth, and the psychological toll of their experiences lingered. Yet, the acknowledgement of their contributions provided a measure of solace, affirming the importance of their sacrifices. The shift in perception also had broader implications for how the French viewed their wartime history. The narrative of resistance, once overshadowed by the realities of occupation and collaboration, gained prominence. The stories of the forgers and other resistance members became integral to the national identity, serving as reminders of the courage and resilience that had defined the French spirit during one of history's darkest chapters. As the years passed, the enduring legacy of the forgers continued to evolve. Their story became a touchstone for discussions about resistance, courage, and the power of individual action. The transformation in how they were perceived marked a significant change in the collective memory of the war, ensuring that their contributions would not be forgotten. The aftermath of liberation also brought with it a reckoning for those who had collaborated with the Nazis. The moral complexities of resistance and collaboration were laid bare, and the forgers found themselves navigating a landscape fraught with tension. Many who had once been viewed as heroes now faced scrutiny, and the lines between right and wrong became increasingly blurred. In this context, the forgers emerged as symbols of integrity and moral courage. Their refusal to conform to the oppressive regime set them apart, and their stories became a source of inspiration for those grappling with the moral dilemmas of the post-war era. The forgers had not only saved lives, they had also challenged the very foundations of tyranny, standing as beacons of hope in a world that had been darkened by hatred and oppression. As France began to rebuild, the contributions of the forgers were increasingly recognized. Their bravery and ingenuity were celebrated, their sacrifices honored. Monuments and memorials were erected, and their stories were shared, ensuring that their legacy would endure. The forgers became emblematic of the spirit of resistance that defined the nation, their actions a testament to the power of courage and compassion in the face of adversity. The transformation in perception was not limited to France alone. The account of the forgers resonated with audiences around the world, inspiring discussions about resistance, moral courage, and the importance of standing up against tyranny. Their legacy transcended borders, serving as a reminder of the universal struggle for freedom and justice. In the years that followed, the forgers' story continued to be told and retold, each iteration adding new layers to their legacy. Their contributions became a vital part of the historical narrative, ensuring that the lessons of their courage would not be forgotten. The forgers had not only changed the course of individual lives, they had also shaped the collective memory of a nation, their actions a testament to the enduring power of resistance. As we reflect on the account of the French forgers, we are reminded of the enduring power of courage and ingenuity. Their actions, once shrouded in secrecy, have become symbols of hope and defiance, inspiring future generations to stand against tyranny and injustice. The enduring legacy of the forgers is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, ordinary individuals can make an extraordinary difference. The enduring legacy of the French forgers is a profound testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of individual courage in the face of tyranny. As the years have passed since the end of World War II, their story has transcended the confines of history, becoming a symbol of hope, defiance, and the unyielding quest for freedom. The impact of their work continues to resonate, shaping the narratives of resistance and survival in contemporary society. In the immediate aftermath of the war, France faced the daunting task of rebuilding not only its infrastructure but also its national identity. The scars of occupation ran deep, and the complexities of collaboration and resistance created a landscape fraught with tension. Within this context, the contributions of the forgers began to emerge from the shadows, gaining recognition as vital components of the resistance effort. The post-war years saw a growing acknowledgement of the role played by ordinary individuals in the fight against oppression. The forgers' actions were framed within the broader narrative of resistance, highlighting the courage and ingenuity required to defy the Nazi regime. This shift in perception was not merely a matter of public recognition. It represented a profound re-evaluation of the moral complexities faced by those who lived through the occupation. As France grappled with its wartime past, the stories of the forgers became integral to the national consciousness. Their contributions were woven into the fabric of collective memory, serving as reminders of the power of individual action in the face of overwhelming odds. The forgers' legacy was not only about the lives they saved but also about the spirit of defiance they embodied, a spirit that would inspire future generations to stand against tyranny and injustice. The enduring legacy of the forgers has been preserved through various forms of commemoration, ensuring that their contributions are not forgotten. Monuments and memorials dedicated to the resistance have been erected across France, honoring the bravery of those who fought against the occupiers. These sites serve as places of reflection, allowing visitors to connect with the past and appreciate the sacrifices made by individuals like Adolphe Tézan and his fellow forgers. In addition to physical memorials, the forgers have been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films that explore their contributions to the resistance. These narratives have played a crucial role in bringing their story to a wider audience, humanizing the forgers and highlighting the moral dilemmas they faced. Through interviews with survivors, archival footage, and reenactments, these productions capture the tension and drama of their clandestine operations, ensuring that the enduring legacy of the forgers remains alive in the public consciousness. Educational initiatives have also been instrumental in commemorating the forgers' legacy. Schools and universities incorporate their story into broader discussions about World War II and the resistance, using it as a case study in courage and ingenuity. By emphasizing the importance of individual action in the fight against oppression, these programs foster a deeper understanding of the complexities of resistance, encouraging students to reflect on the moral and ethical challenges faced by those who defied tyranny. The descendants of those who were saved by the forgers have also played a vital role in preserving their legacy. Many have become advocates for remembering the forgers, participating in commemorative events and sharing their family stories with new generations. These personal narratives serve as powerful reminders of the human cost of war and the impact of individual actions on the lives of others. The long-term impact of the forgers' work extends beyond the immediate post-war years. Their story has become a touchstone for discussions about resistance, courage, and the power of individual action. The enduring legacy of the forgers is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, ordinary individuals can make an extraordinary difference. In contemporary society, the themes embodied by the forgers resonate with ongoing struggles against oppression and injustice. Their story serves as an inspiration for those who continue to fight for freedom and human rights around the world. The courage displayed by the forgers in the face of tyranny is a powerful reminder of the importance of standing up against injustice, regardless of the risks involved. The forgers' legacy has also influenced the way we understand the complexities of war and resistance. Their actions challenge simplistic narratives of good versus evil, highlighting the moral ambiguities faced by individuals in times of crisis. The account of the forgers encourages us to consider the choices made by those who lived through the occupation, prompting deeper reflections on the nature of resistance and the sacrifices required to uphold one's principles. As we look to the future, the enduring legacy of the French forgers remains a vital part of our collective memory. Their story is preserved not only in museums and memorials but also in the hearts and minds of those who continue to draw inspiration from their courage. The forgers have become symbols of resilience and defiance, reminding us that the fight for justice and freedom is an ongoing struggle that requires unwavering commitment and courage. In conclusion, the enduring legacy of the French forges is a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity and courage. Their actions, once shrouded in secrecy, have become symbols of hope and defiance, inspiring future generations to stand against tyranny and injustice. The forger's story serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, ordinary individuals can make an extraordinary difference. As we reflect on the contributions of the forgers, we honor their sacrifices and celebrate their resilience. Their legacy is not just a chapter in history, it is a living testament to the indomitable spirit of those who dared to resist oppression. In remembering the forgers, we ensure that their story continues to inspire and resonate, reminding us of the importance of courage, compassion, and the relentless pursuit of freedom.